colleagues, ethics.
It's for why I employ her. That's her one skill. For those of you who don't know, that's Renee Johnpon, and she's our rural manager of our Roma office. So welcome everyone. This is our second RaboBank Beef Bites. Today we have a very special presentation for you, something that I'm sure that every person in this room has had something to do with, and that's succession planning. And I think it's probably one of the most important things that we do in our business, particularly in the agri world. So as I mentioned before, today we have the Lord family here to share their story of succession, and we're hosted by Ben Lord, the financial bloke. So if everyone can give them 100% of their attention, if you can make sure your phones are on silent, and if you need to excuse yourself, please do. The session will go for about 45 minutes, and then we'll follow with some questions, and then post that we'll have some drinks in Italy, and another opportunity to catch up with the Lord family. So today from the Lord family we've got Ardie, Kacie and Nikko, and facilitating, and we've got Jade.
Yeah, Jade.
And Jade, sorry. Hi Jade, we've got Jade on the screen there. And facilitating our session today is we've got Ben Lord, the financial bloke. So it does an amazing podcast. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. So I'll give you a little background on Ben, because you're going to hear a lot from the Lord family. So, and I forgot to mention, so they're actually from Richmond, from up that part of the world. So, okay. So Ben grew up on a beef cattle and cropping property in the Liverpool Plains in northwest New South Wales. His family has been farming now for 3 generations. Being from the land, his real passion is helping farming families and the greater rural community grow and thrive. He started his career as a financial advisor, but today focuses on education and coaching for the rural community, more broadly through the protocol of the financial bloke. So I'm going to hand you over to the experts now. Everyone enjoy themselves, and we'll have a drink afterwards.
Oh, me too.
Thanks, Lee. Welcome, everyone. We've got a hell of a crowd today, haven't we? Is everyone having fun so far? Enjoyed Beef Week? Yeah, who's been at a long lunch? Yeah, a couple of you will admit to it, eh? Maybe Nikko was a bit late. Excellent. Well, look, I think this has been one of the really anticipated events that Rabo's put on, and I can see why. I think we're going to have a great time today, and what I want you to all do is think of some questions at the end, because I know all three are pretty keen to have some questions answered, aren't they? Now, first off, I'm going to have my notes here I'm going to be referring to. I'm normally doing a podcast, so I'm sitting in a room, a dark room, on my own, with a video screen interviewing. I've never usually got 200 or 300 people in a room, so you'll have to forgive me for that. So therefore, you can have your notes too. It's perfectly okay. I want to thank Rabo for putting the event on. I think they do a great job educating everyone from the land, and this is so different. And especially I want to thank Genevieve, where's Genevieve? Hiding at the back, head of marketing. She was the one that approached me back late last year and said, hey, I think we might do a podcast type episode with everyone on succession. And I've got some great ideas. So I just want to say thanks to Jen for that. Now today we're going to be talking about succession. Now, succession is one of those topics that quite often when you speak to people about it, it's one of the biggest issues in the rural community these days. And I quite often think it's one of those things that's being done to death. You know, you go, there's webinars, there's newsletters, there's workshops, and most of the time when people talk about succession, it's always doom and gloom and I can't get this to work. And I think it's a reality that it's tough for the rural industry, and the reason it's tough is because it's usually due to a complex array of problems, and there's no silver bullet. And I think it has to be stated that it's difficult to do, but it's not impossible. And I think having the Lord family here today is going to be a real insight into how you can go about making a succession in your business work. Now, we're going to be recording this episode, so we're going to, this session. And if the audio gods are kind to us, we're going to put it out as a podcast on the Financial Bloke podcast. So it's highly recommend go back and have another listen. Whenever I listen to my old episodes, I hate listening to myself, but I always get really good gold nuggets out the second time around. And if you know of anyone anywhere in Australia that's going through the succession process, I'd reckon share it with them and see if you can help them out. Now, when Jen first mentioned we were going to do this podcast, I said, well, who are you going to get to do it? And she mentioned the Lord family. And I think I said to Jen, she's around the back, I said, that'll be a cracker of an episode if you can get them here. And I know it's a big ask, and I want you all to sort of take a moment just to reflect on the fact of how difficult it is or how brave it is to be able to get up in front of everyone here. Sorry, I don't want to make you too nervous. No, sure. But it's a big thing to get up here and talk about family dynamics and family succession, because seldom do they ever go perfectly, and there's always going to be bumps in the road. So I just want to start off with is say to all of the little family here is, I sincerely appreciate the fact that you're willing to invest not only the time, but to expose your family and what you've been through over that time. So thank you. But the second thing is when I first spoke to everyone here is, I have to say they were really humble about this. They made it really clear from the start. They said, Ben, we're going through this process ourselves. We've been going through it for 20-something years, and we haven't always got it right. You know, we've had difficult times. Some things have worked, some things haven't worked. We've had to get outside help. I know RCS, David McLean over there, had a big impact on the family. And they don't have all the answers. I think that was really clear. So today is about what worked for them. Hopefully you take away some gold nuggets, and really appreciate it's been done. Now, for those of you who don't know who the Lord family is, Lord Pastoral runs around 20,000 head of cattle. Now, the foundation of the business was laid by Ardie and Kacie back in the day, whose hard work and dedication really set the foundations for the business. And now we have Nikko and Jade. Jade, you can see a picture. You'll hear from her on video, because she couldn't be here today, to talk about her side of the story, being a city girl. But they've also got their 3 children, Jocko, Sandy, and Ruby. I've got those right. I think I originally left Ruby off. As we said, Jade's a city girl. So she was born in the city. And for those of you who know the Lords, you know that they were a farmer once of life success story. We're not going to go into that today, but they're one truly great story to come out of that. But having someone not from the bush come back onto the land does add some challenges. I'm sure out there you're all dealing with that sort of thing. But it also adds a unique perspective and some real value to the family. Now, the family's built scale. They didn't start with scale, but they've built scale. They've got non-family owners of some of the assets in the business. They've got siblings that are off farm. They've got strong driven personalities. I think that'd be right, Nikko, wouldn't it? Strong driven personalities, so passionate. So they've probably gone through most of the problems, or some of the problems you've gone through. And also the last thing is there's Jade's got 2 off-farm siblings, Zara and Ali, and I think Ali's here. Is it Ali's in the crowd?
Zara.
Oh no, Zara. Hello, Zara. How are you? Zara's in the crowd here today. Ali's working. Yep. And while she's not actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, she's still integrally involved in the family, and the family's integrally involved in her life business opportunities, which Ardie's going to talk about today. Now, without further delay, we're going to kick off. Now we're going to start with Ardie. Ardie's going to be the spokesman to start this off. And when I went through and interviewed the family, I got out my pen, because I like writing notes. I'm a real note taker. And usually it's with a thick Nikko pen and it's in colours and it's like a child's done it. But I like to go through and I pen with them all, didn't I, Kacie, with question. And I came out with all these gold nuggets. And then I went back and showed them and said, I reckon the best thing we could do is take each of those gold nuggets and then talk about them. So hopefully you can take it today. Now, the first one we wanted to talk about was clarity of roles, vision, and structured accountability in a business. Now, one of the major problems I see with families in business is that they just can't seem to get everyone on the same page, singing from the same solution, all rowing together. And then finding that alignment and then also keeping that alignment in the family is tough. So, Ardie, what I'd like you to address, mate, is how difficult was it for you to get aligned as a family, and then how did you eventually get there?
Thanks, Ted. I think the first thing I'd ask is, who to have a family to run a business? You know, it's a whole basket full of emotions, a melting pot of stories and yet we take it on all the time. So when Nikko came back from his university, particularly as Mark Solomon, it was about 10 years of running around, we had to work together. We're very similar personalities. We're both risk takers and we're both impatient, and we're both swan-laners. So luckily, we brought Dave McLean onto the board, and one of the first things we did was establish some clear goals, some clear values, clear breaches of values, and a clear vision and a clear direction. And it certainly gave us to grand tracks to run with. That's probably the process which we operated in business, but the real journey started for us probably 23 years ago, and I think that's where the journey starts. It really starts when they're 0 to 7, but it really started having family meetings when the kids were 9, 10, 11, 12. And they were simple little meetings, but they were simple meetings about setting some goals. This is our position. The youngest daughter was terrified about debt. We always teased it, that's what you're getting. But it set a framework for our family to communicate. It set a framework for where this is the space you go to when you want to know what's coming.
Now, one of the things, Ardie, I find is many families don't involve their children. They say they're too young, it's not age appropriate, how do we bring them in? Are you a strong advocate of bringing the children in, Lord?
Absolutely. I think our job's pretty much done with this generation. We're at Saltwood. We've just moved back up to north for so many months a year because we've got 3 little ones between 2 and 7. And that's what we're getting influence and had a lot of fun doing it. So our job, I think, is like a football coach. These guys are, and Elliot and Nikko, are very much on the page, running a business, just doing their stuff. We act as a mentor. I think Lynn Sykes summed it up the other day beautifully. The silent elder. I'm just not very silent, so it's not always good. Yeah, that's very much our role at this stage. Is more just mentoring in business and our families. Yeah, I think that's fun.
So I'm guessing it was all smooth sailing.
Yeah, there was a few times that a few storm-offs and a few not being to work together. I mean, it was a bit of an impossible journey, having 2 personalities, Nikko with a genetic problem, being me, work together. But I always have a good belief that business is there to succeed. In the corporate world, it's a very clean model that they just employ the best, take on the next headhunt and go forward. And in families, we don't. So we have a role of educating and mentoring the next generation. And then stepping back, and I think the other big thing to move to is, what do we do? What's our purpose? What's our direction? And getting clear about that. It's not just a financial bit of a plan, we'll shove a few assets here and all that, and we'll do this. It's really about the people. And that journey's a lifelong journey.
Thanks, Ardie. What do you got to say about Nikko? Because apparently you're just the same as Dad, but difficult to deal with by the sound of it.
I don't know if I had a choice. I think it's just a product of my environment. From a very young age, I was very grateful, and I think now that I'm a parent, I look back and I'm more appreciative and more grateful than ever what my parents have done for us. They housed us, they educated us, but they taught us to work. They taught us, to be fair. They taught us the difference between a need and a want. And when we were little kids, and my sister attested this, we'd bought a soft drink and I'd say, hold your nose, tell me whether you need air or you want air. He'd say, oh no, I want a soft drink. So we sort of solved a few things like that. But those little things that I feel like our success was all from when we were little kids. And it enabled us to be able to all stay in the room together when things got tough to get trained. I really do. I just think all that hard work was done back then. And it was still tough. We go back through all those dry years, and I came back from college and all this ambition and still on a hangover. And I learned very quickly the difference between knowledge and wisdom. You come out of college and you think you got the world, well, you do have the world at your feet, but had I been let go to go and do what I want, I didn't have that wisdom around me. I don't know how quick I would have crashed and burned it, but I reckon I probably would have made it too long. But at the same time, we were an awesome team, with his wisdom and my energy, and I was also very fortunate to come into a family that was very progressive. And I think that is also very important for a lot of young people. We have a strong regenerative ag approach, which is the big buzzword these days. And so it was very sexy to come in and be doing this sort of stuff. So from my perspective, like I said, a product of the environment, I don't think I had a choice.
Yeah, thanks, Nikko. I think that's fairly true, but there's been, listening to you guys and talking off before this, is the thing that became really clear for me was Ardie and Kacie are really focused on the grandkids. You know, it's like we see it, so we have a custodial role to actually play in helping those grandkids grow up and be involved in the kids' life, which I think is really, really commendable as well. So it needs to go. Now, communication and connection. My stats, and remember 95% of stats are made up on the spot. My stats tell me that about 60% of succession plans fail because of the failure of communication and the failure of trust, or a breakdown of trust. And when I first started chatting to Kacie, I think you said something along the lines of, oh Ben, I absolutely love all things communication connections. I could talk for days. And so I'm treating the gauntlet here because I'm going to ask you a question about this. And we've got, we don't have all day. So communication. Why is connection and communication so important to you, Kacie? And how did you embrace that with a family, and especially the children?
Ben, thank you, and it's so good to see so many people here to listen to this topic. And as I think Ben said before, we haven't got it all right, and we're a long way. We're only halfway through the journey, so we're just sharing a little bit of what we've learned. I just want to put something to you. We can build an empire, we can build a huge empire, but what I got clear about many years ago was, what is the point of an empire if we're sitting at the table by ourselves? And in the mid-90s, we were part of Executive Link, which is run by RCS. And we had a great few days, and we'd set some amazing goals. And just to bring us back down to earth and get us on track for what was important, Terry McCosker said, I want to tell you all about the Pluto principle. And he said, I want you to imagine that Pluto is going to crash in your berth tomorrow. What would you all do? Would you go and ring the bank manager and make sure that your assets were intact? What were you going to do about interest rates? To a person, I think there was probably 300 people in the room, 299 said they'd go to the family. One wag said they'd go to the pub and ring the family. But out of that, I just got 100% clear that the most important thing in our lives was our family. And then I put into the mix my family history, and I grew up in a beautiful family, very solid mum and dad. But to be really candid, we were all about looking good. We were never encouraged to discuss anything in the family that was difficult. My mother even said to me one day, darling, it'll do you no good going into all this psychology business. But I persisted because I just felt that there was something in our family that was missing. And what was missing was the honest conversations. And I was really determined that we were going to bring those honest conversations to our family. I didn't know how we were going to do it, but Ardie and I were going to do it. And then I remember Lynn Sykes said to us at one stage, she mentioned something about family meetings, and I thought that sounded like a really good idea. Have I got a few more minutes to talk? So we started family meetings when Alexandra was 9, I think Zara might have been 11, and Nikko 12, 13. We wrote out an agenda, and Ardie gave the kids a very clear idea about what our financial position was, as he said, it blew Alexandra out of the water. And we still have the minutes for that meeting. And we've continued to have family meetings over the years. But what we did at that meeting was set the framework for this is how we communicate. If you have a need in this family, then this is the platform that you bring that need to discuss. Not, as happened in my family, when there was a need, one sister would ring the other, then the other, she'd ring the other, and so it would go around, and finally that need would get back to mum and dad. Really distorted stuff. So what we did at that first meeting was to say to the kids, when you have a need, this is how it rolls, this is what you do. The other thing that developed was we talked about, this is where if you want to bring something up about somebody, this is the place to do it. We talked about gossip and what gossip is in a family, in a small community, and how destructive it is. And out of that came something that runs our family, which is that the conversations are with a person involved, not about the person involved. And that means that every time there's something to be discussed, it goes to the person involved. And those sort of things, that framework has been really good for our family. And from that, I believe that has actually set the foundations for what Ardie has done with the structure of succession. And it's one thing to have a great structure of succession, but if you don't have a family that's communicating, what is the point of it? We have some pretty bloody conversations, but everybody stays at the table until that conversation is resolved. And I think that's been really good for our family. Just 1 second, there was something else that I think I needed to mention in this. The other thing, just about education.
We want to get all these gold nuggets.
The other thing that has been really important for us is we've all done the same education. From in the early days of doing, Ardie and I did all the RCS stuff together, so I actually knew what he was thinking about, knew the people that he was talking to, we were on the same page. Then we started doing personal development, and that for our whole family has been really gold, because we've learned to have a little bit of what's called emotional intelligence around our discussions. We know what it is to have a difficult conversation now. So for all of you married couples, families, take your family with you through education.
Thanks, Kacie. It's fantastic. Can everyone out the back hear? Excellent. Okay, good. Fantastic. So that leads perfectly into the next question, which is for young Nikko. Family problems. Every family has problems. And in my experience, a disagreement avoided, a confrontation avoided is a disagreement magnified. Nobody ever does well kicking the can down the road. I think Nikko would agree. And one of the most striking things the family said when I first met and started talking to them was they said, it's far too easy to run away from family problems, which touches on what Kacie said there. So Nikko, from your perspective, mate, how critical was it for you guys to tackle those family problems when they came up, rather than just kicking the can the other side?
But I don't think it was that tough for us, to be honest. I feel like we were held pretty accountable from a very young age. But we very much have had the rule that we do not go to sleep on a problem. We're very good at, and we're very passionate. We yell, we scream, we try to minimise it, I suppose, but it does happen. It doesn't really, but we're very passionate. We stand up for what we believe. We're very passionate cattle, we're very passionate farmers, grass farmers. We're very passionate, finances. Okay, so we're all a bit righteous in that area, which isn't a bad thing. I believe though, it doesn't get toxic. We're very quick to stand up and call each other out, but it just minus the swear words. We managed to keep that out of it, and we are able to have conversations. And it's actually tough. If we get the new crew around us, it can be tough sometimes because they look at it and think we're about unsure, but we're not. We're actually just very good at who will say there, we'll look each other in the eye, we'll have the conversation we need to have. And as I said, if we get to the point where the swear words start coming out, we'll take 5 and we'll cool down and we'll go, so we've all, we've got these templates that we've picked up from these courses that we're aiming to do. And I believe that I don't think we could have done this ourselves. Even with having 2 amazing mentors, it was the outside help that we've got with advisors, the courses that we've done, and multiple. It's just like go to the gym, you go to a good gym session, and then you feel great for the next few days, and then like a week later you're back on the same thing. But it's that muscle memory and going, that repetitive training of the brain and going and doing it where, and it sometimes takes a bit longer to pick up, but so that was, I think, a big game changer for us too.
And I'm guessing by having formal family meetings, Nikko, you'd be able to have those conversations about those disagreements in a more formal setting to be able to take a lot of these out. Is that correct?
100%. We've had 2 quite large family succession meetings in the last 2 years, and we're going into it, because society tells you how scary succession meetings are, and we came out of it, and it was just the most. It was actually a really, we really all with tears and whatnot. Like it was just a really enjoyable process to everyone was just talking that there's needs. Sometimes we didn't agree with those needs, but it was, and obviously that comes back just to that we weren't going into that meeting carrying baggage about who blew a mob last week. It was all like we'd gone into it at a very, like the cause was there, keeping,
Thanks, Nikko. Now, Brendan, can we get the video playing just at the end of this? Jade, as we mentioned, being a city girl, so she comes not from the country, and she married into a farming family, and using the farm once a wife, it was, I'm guessing, about because of the fire. It's amazing the amount of families I see these days where they have a husband or a wife that comes out and they say they're not from the city, they're from the city, they're not from the country, and then there's inherently some problems to that. So I thought we wanted to bring Jade in and be involved, and so we recorded this the other day. It's just a quick couple of minutes, so hopefully everyone can hear. They're not always funny.
In more serious state, a lot of families struggle with their son or daughter getting into a relationship with someone that doesn't come from an ag background. And it's often a really agitating factor for the family, and quite often it's a deal breaker. And I'm guessing there's probably these times, or there was a time when you thought you'd have to be going, this might be the right for me. So how hard was it for you to come back to the family and integrate into the system, shall I say?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging at the beginning, moving from the beach to the bush and stepping into this way of life with all the traditions attached. And I did have to go and speak to Nikko about a year into it and talk to him about how I was trying to understand and navigate my way, but then also bring back battle that I keep honouring myself and my purpose and passion. So yeah, lots of communication at the beginning.
Were Ardie and Kacie open and welcoming to you coming into the family and being involved? Was there a level of trust straight away?
Yeah, I feel really lucky, to be honest. And like I said, that first year that I moved out there, I skipped quite a few bumps and I really struggled with finding my feet. And there would be lots of tears in the paddock or tears when I come home and just going like, what am I doing and how do I do this? And
That must be crazy.
Yeah. And no one back home had any idea of what I was doing. But I'm really grateful because one, Nikko always, he actually kept challenging me to step further and teaching me along the way. So she was learning, like I said, staying in jury role and teaching me along the way. Kacie was always there at the end of the day with a glass of champagne, and we would sit on the front veranda and I would just be able to talk about what was coming up for me, what my challenges were, and she was great here and that to help me shift those paradigms as well of my beliefs. And then Ardie was incredible with opening up his incredible knowledge on the business and the accounts and the financials and why we do what we do, why they did what they did. And so right from the beginning, I guess that is they gave me an opportunity to learn and to grow with them.
So if you were talking to a family up there that say had their son in this example, or it could be a daughter with a son-in-law, they've got a daughter or son-in-law that's come from a non-farming background and moved out on a farm, what's the advice you give them to make sure that gives that person the best chance, or that family the best chance to get a successful outcome?
I guess, firstly, you and your partner really being solid in the greater vision and why you're on the land, why you've asked that person to come back to the land and the journey that he wants or they want to go on. And then secondly, asking questions, and just, even if it's not something you've ever done before, which is definitely my story, in completely left field, I think it's really important to know and understand why farmers do what they do, and why they love their land and why they love their animals, and I guess involve yourself in the business and keep asking questions, because I think that way then you're opening up communication lines. They see that you're interested and you're growing, and we all have something that we can contribute to the business. Like I said, I'm not from the background, but there's areas skills that I have that I've been able to integrate and then to also help Nikko and I's business and the greater business with Kacie and Ardie. So everybody has something that they can contribute, but just keep asking questions, and then over time you've always got some add value.
And as you mentioned, communicate. Bring them in, keep them involved, ask questions, and I love what Kacie did. Sit down with you every day and have a conversation on the veranda. Shows you care, but also is able to help you adjust to the scenario.
Okay, so that technology worked. I must have done something right. I was a bit worried about that, whether it would work. There's a couple of cuts in there because we had to keep it a little bit shorter than we needed to. So, Kacie, I think, a bit of the stuff we cut out, she really focused on how you guys, always were welcoming, and you started from a level of trust. So there was it wasn't that you're guilty until proven innocent, you're innocent until proven guilty. I think it was really lovely, and I think she really appreciated that, and that added a huge amount of value. Now, Kacie, I've got this question for you now. So, Tony Robbins famously said, if you're not growing, you are dying. So I think we can say that personally and also from a business point of view. Now, the business has grown exponentially over the last 20 years since you started that planning decades ago, and that's still at a level of financial scale. In your view, is it equally as important to grow personally and as a family as it is to grow the scale of the business and the financial scale?
I think I'll hark back to what I said at the beginning, that it's one thing to build an empire, but it would be bloody lonely to be sitting at the table by yourself with an empire at your fingertips. And I think unless you get that communication right, and for us, getting the communication right meant getting ourselves educated, and we could have done that by just reading a book. We actually went and firstly through RCS, we did a lot of different courses. Ardie and I made sure we did all the same courses, so we actually, because both of us are very different people and we hear and see different things, but at the end of the day, we didn't know what the other was thinking. When we started doing personal development courses, the kids then Ardie and I started, and then the kids in later years have all done the same courses. So we're all on the same page in terms of communication. And I can't stress enough the importance of getting that communication right in your family. And again, I'll go back to our family meetings and the importance, unbeknownst to us, then, it just seemed like a good idea at the time, and that's why we went ahead with it. But what we actually said in those early meetings was to the kids the importance of open, honest communication in family. because that's what makes the difference.
Thanks, Kacie. And one of the things that came out for me when we talked was the fact that there was a real culture in the family of always growing. So personally, so growing the business, so we need to be personally growing, and then a real culture of personal accountability and responsibility. That seemed to absolutely shine through for me, Kacie. So that's a really important to take away. Now, Ardie, first and last, get to that bookend this in, off-farm siblings. How do we deal with them? Because there's five of them. More often than not, for families on the land, how the bloody hell do we deal with off-farm siblings? You know, we've got someone coming back on the land, we've got to deal with that, but how do we deal with off-farm? And it adds a level of stress, it adds a level of complexity, and the number one thing always comes up, I think, is, does it have to be equal to be fair? And how do we do this? So, I know you guys have done a huge amount of work around this, and the off-farm, I'll say kids, adult children, are just as important to the family businesses as on-farm. So how have you addressed this with the family, and how did you get there?
It's pretty simple, I think, Ben. I guess the first thing is that I'd like to define a couple of things. Before we talk about roles and responsibilities, but in our business, we've got landowners, we've got business owners, which is Nikko and Jade. They own the cows and all that now. We lease our land to them, and we have stakeholders. And Zara and Ali and the youngest, as of last week, our situation changed because we've now got another family. Our youngest daughter got engaged last week, still we've got another couple that want to be on the land. So it's an evolving process. But from our point of view, we'll have meetings, which is Nikko, Jade, Kacie and I, and then the outside executive under our board for the pastoral business. I work with both our siblings. Kacie and I support our siblings and then have been invested in their businesses, in the girls' businesses. So we have a role very much there where we very much for that and enjoy that journey. But they're also stakeholders in the business. In other words, we have a suppose of as a stage to them. We've given this opportunity. We've given Nikko opportunity and the girls opportunity to work to their future and how they go. The other thing I would say very much is that there's been no promise. There's been, if any of them come home and work in the business, it may be work in the business. And their package may include security and the ability to buy land as it goes down to what Zara goes to. So we haven't given a lot to them at this stage. It's a pretty handy, a very useful opportunity.
And so just for everyone here, so when you have family meetings, is everyone involved in those family meetings? Do we have different meetings for different things?
Absolutely. For instance, I think there's a lot of meetings, but we have Lord Pastoral, which is Nikko and Jade, running that, and luckily at this stage we're still on the board. We haven't kicked us off. Probably invite a couple others on. I'm a drafter today at my change. It could change any day if I offered it to him. Zara, I'm the director on there with a couple of other external, the same with Howard. So we're involved in that process, and we're financially tied with all three from the spirit point of view. But I must, to me, one of the great things that will enable that is the separation of who owns the business, who owns the business, who owns AE, who owns that. And they're all looking at where they're going. So they're very clear about what the future is. The second side of that question is that our family charter meetings, which Nikko was talking about before, is just a process of someone externally poking and asking, what do you think about this? How does that lie with how does that fit with you? So that they're not fighting with 20 years' time with heads and ring. So that's really important, is to ask and to listen. You don't have someone professional doing that.
Because that was the thing that came through, was whatever happened, you always got out and to do that. And I'm guessing that allowed you then to have those discussions and someone else to be able to ask sometimes the difficult questions or the elephants of room that somebody may. Now, Excellent. So we're starting to get towards the end to questions. I hope, I guess everyone's got a million of them. But what I want to do is just a quick fire one as we come towards the end. And I'd like to get one gold nugget, or one little piece of advice you could give everyone here in the crowd, or one learning that you've had over the last X amount of years going through this process. And can I start with you, Nikko?
That uncomfortableness that sits in your guts, that's growth. And I think in life today we do everything to be more comfortable and to avoid struggle. But and I believe that I know the fact that that's when a lot of what's made us is that we don't shy away from the little things that hit. Pick up the phone and have a conversation, do shit, but that uncomfortableness and struggle that's been. And so we've always been able to way out through that.
It's interesting, Nikko, just from my observation, and I'm a parent, I have a very headstrong 7-year-old, but quite often we shy away from those difficult things, don't we? And we want to help our children and not let them fail, not let them learn those lessons. So I think that's a really important point to have. And sometimes that's a conversation. And I love that idea of that uncomfortable feeling is growth. Kacie, if you'd like to share any gold nugget before we wind up?
I'm very goodness for me, I'm looking forward to it. I have this thing, what have I got to do today so all our family are having Christmas together in 20 years' time? Whenever there's a difficult conversation, it's who do I have to be in this conversation to make sure the outcome is a good one, so we're all having Christmas together in 20 years' time. For me, it's a benchmark that for me really works. It really pulls me into line. It makes me stay in the conversation when I don't want to stay in the conversation, but I will, because I know that I need to stay in this conversation to resolve it so that we're all having Christmas together in 20 years' time. For me, that little benchmark really works.
No, that's fantastic. And I love that little yardstick, because if you can continually think like that, because I think everyone here would agree that that's usually the yardstick of how prosperous our family's going. Because when I ask families and I say, well, what does prosperity look like? And invariably everyone says, you all sit around the table at Christmas time and having eight together. And I think it's a really good measure. It's like a barometer of how well we're going. Yeah, thanks, Jason. What about you, Ardie? What's the gold nugget?
The gold nugget was found at a comment from Nikko about a year ago. And he said, oh, well, you probably had your race yet. And I said, you better watch out, I might get a bit you. Look after the yellow. For us, Kacie and I, we come first. We've done the hard work, we've done it. The kids made it said that, they're very nice that. But it's not about financial or not about who we knew. It's about us having choices. It's very much about us having choices first. The little story that we make down at Formidable, they gave a new house a few months ago, and about a month later, Kacie back was homesick. To this degree, it's lovely and social, but I need a bit of purpose too, is that, she, next thing is we go back up to Richmond, she took 6,000 metres to break in, and has 3 little grandkids to educate, and or to play with, and that's really important. So for me, the older generation comes first, set up a playing group for the others to row their boat.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Ardie, because I think that's a big problem for a lot of people as they get older. Is like, if I do succession plan, or I hand over, or I hand on, step back, whatever the words you want to use, what the hell is going to be my purpose in life? Is that a signal to the universe to say, right, I'm done, I'm out, take me away? How did you go, transitioning from being, holding onto the reins to then stepping back? How did you find that purpose, Ardie?
A bit difficult, no doubts about that. But Nikko and I work together, and certainly our roles and those things certainly hold that. But also being clear about what I want to do. And both Kacie and I are clear where we need pity, where we don't pity, and whether you're available or whether we're not available, and Nikko certainly speaks that very well. And so, each fail. I don't need to be that busy doing lots of the day-to-day or being involved, and I'm really enjoying not being employing people, not really owning cows, not really owning quotas and things that break down. So we operate at a level of just being a landlord with the thing, and currently where we'll see that at least when all our years probably allows with that.
Did it take a bit of time, Nikko, for that to find its purpose and sort of, shall we say, agreeing to step back, but actually stepping back? Did it take a little bit of time?
Yeah, it did. It did. It was, like every son will probably say that, I think, but, you know, oh, Dad, you got to let go, we did come back and whatnot, and you know, maybe, you know, we can this growth work, but probably stop pointing the finger a bit and look at myself a bit more. And I realised that once I stepped up late, probably gave me with comfortableness to step back and on board. But yeah, it did. And then but I just started, once we got through that, and we are actually all living back on the same station. And they, you know, Mum and Dad are there, and sister's been, she's now engaged to my right-hand man. You've got the grandkids, so we're all on the same station. I thought 6 years ago, I couldn't have painted a worse picture for him. But it's where we want to be. None of us are really relying on each other. They come and go as they please, and they let me know that they want to work. And very grateful to have them coming and going. And I look at that now, and I think, Jesus Christ, it's been a rocky road, but we've all stayed in it, and couldn't be happier to even have my sister back in a place, and the opportunity, if we choose to go into partnership, was going to partner there to track, and it's a really, really nice place to be. And I think it actually, one of our strongest draw cards with our staff, you know, we're not competing for mines with gear us last year, you know, mediocre pay and whatnot. It's still good or not, but one of our biggest draw cards is quality of life, and getting these fellas, you know, teaching them financial literacy, teaching them, you know, how to smile with the face all day long, how to have a, you know, the reason why we love what we do is the quality of life, and to be able to see a bunch of fellas who would go to war for us tomorrow is pretty less there. But that comes from a family life. It's the first thing they want to say. They feel the love. And one more thing, I was taught that no one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's the start with family. You got to show that you care before it makes something release. And
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks, everyone. We're right on time for some questions. So I don't know who, there's some microphones floating up there. Does anyone want to put their hand up for a question?
Oh, the safety is off. Where are you to the wood? What? That's all been out. Music was yes.
Hi, mates, the sharing of story.
This year was
We're about to go into the parts that you're well down. And I just find that I was really interested in your talking about personal development, because I think that's being able to communicate is such a strong need in that situation. Where do you go, or who did you use to do that personal growth stuff with? Because that's not that easy to find. We started with RCS within the 90s, and we worked with a woman called Lynn Sykes, and we did Lynn's family facilitation workshop, and that stuff's been my dance, so I naturally gravitated towards that. But Ardie also came and did the same work. And from there, we then did a course called Landmark, which Landmark Education, which was our first foray into something quite different, where they take you through a process where then you find out, they call your XYZ moments, which are stories that run your life, and often it's those stories in your head that bear no relevance to rationality that run your life. And until we resolve those, often that's what stops us. And from then we've gone on to do a lot of other work, some of it pre-law, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. Real education, there's a lot of good idea coach, a 6-month coach training program through real education. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it afterwards. There's really good stuff out there, and I encourage you to do it, but get the whole family to do it, not just you.
I really like the fact that everyone got involved.
Just like to add to that, because we have a partnership business too, that got another couple of little bit. They could be a partnership for 22 years. A lot of people sort of say God partnership. It's one of the most crucial things in your life, like an emotional. But in that journey, we've all been through those journeys. I think it started off where it was a dog was a bolt, and then we learned to, the horse, and then we learned to manage a bit of grass, and then we learned to manage a bit of business. And then, when I did RCS, I thought I learned how to manage people and communicating. But in the end, it's just here. There's only one thing that had to change, one thing I could work with, and it became me, and it brought us here. And now we've got some siblings, and daughter of the Lord, son of the Lord, that they keep us accountable, and they coach us about being on centre. And if there's anything else that's not, it's about when anyone steps off centre in that family, which is the aggressive, noisy, big wave, which is a stronger. That maybe just nails it and just pulls it back up and says, see it up, feed. And that's the most powerful thing that happens in business, because we're dealing with what I said at the beginning, this emotional melting pot of family with all this stuff in their head, trying to run a business. We have to deal with that before we even start running business. That's the point.
Right. I get a lot of people say, how am I going to get my partner or this person to go and do this sort of stuff? And it's actually like it's, I remember when we first came through it, you come out and it's like a sales pitch, you tell it everyone, you should go and do this. No one likes to be told to go and do something straight away, they just anything all. And after about a year, you don't even realise it, but I subconsciously just started talking about what it had done for me. And in that all of a sudden, and I never got anyone to be able to deal with that. So they're thinking I'm doing a good thing. And then all of a sudden, I'd get again these fellas ringing me, and I would have had a rodeo or something, and somehow I must have been talking about all the problems in my life. And they'd ring me like the next week, and I've let this happen by 3 or 4 times. You're telling me about some course and getting it, helped out. And it was amazing how much people were listening now all of a sudden when I was just vulnerable talking about, my relationships, about that didn't work, this hadn't worked. And all of a sudden, and guys who, you would not think of listening. Well, you didn't realise you're talking good about you you'll get vulnerable. All of a sudden, it's so many mates from different corners of the world. And it's generally when they let some stuff go wrong, they're vulnerable, and they're going to go. And that's what I say to everyone, go and do it yourself, and then just be a better person yourself, and people will be like, hey, what are you doing? Why is that not working for you? And that people want to do it and see it. That's the only way I reckon it works.
There's a button on the side. Keep it. Push.
Can I ask, do you anticipate any issues for capital gains tax and stamp duty if you let us start managing assets?
Yes. Secondly, we'll probably find out from AgriCoach department we'll see, yes. I guess one of the good things is that you pay tax is stuff that's been successful. So we've all got a duty in that, but that's certainly stuff we deal with it. I don't disagree with Terry Pack when he said he wastes so much that I will try and minimise it. Yes. Yes and yes.
They never had
Any other questions? Got to be a few more out there. Oh yeah, we've got a gentleman over there.
A bit closer if you could. I was just wondering, you've sort of done the deal with Nikko.
Sorry, I can't hear. Sorry, not up. How do you facilitate it?
If you deploy it, we'll do that's it.
How do you facilitate did you get the first statement? So if you've already facilitated Nikko, that is like leasing land and owning cattle, now you have a sibling coming back wanting to go onto the land. How would you facilitate that?
Good question. I guess firstly, to separate the land and we sold Nikko and Jade and that's something called Baby. We haven't sold it when you land. And Nikko first came home 12 years ago, he got the opportunity to buy it, where it's been in water place, he got support 110% of the debt. The end of the property in his name. But they kept him honest and kept him a bit so he had a purpose. He was managing our asset. At that stage, basically I owned 1,000 and all that stuff. So for 10 years, he's at structure. He needed a certain amount of lease, he needed a lease to pay interest bills and all his costs. And I said, that's fine, we'll pay you that. But you're managing, you say you better pay us the same at the same value. I said, so I put it immense pressure on the business to perform. You don't go and buy shares if you had fair West Harpers and don't want the dividend check, do you? So we said the same thing to him, no problem, just pay us the dividend. Secondly, in succession, he had an opportunity to invest. He gets asset on his kid name at a young age. And with the girls, part of our job, basically mine, is to protect each other, protect everyone in the family, including yourself. So, I guess with some of the properties we've bought, will go to the girls. Or in that process over the next, maybe the next 6 months or soon. So all that's been talked about, decided over the last 5 years. And everyone's really comfortable about where they're going. But I guess one way, Kacie and I are landlords to the business that Nikko and Jade done. Nikko's a landlord to the business and he's got to wear two hats. The girls are stakeholders eventually where they have their interests looked after. And there's some equity in a way that being allocated there to go and chase their dreams and build what they do. Kacie and I made a little thing that we wanted to create and be profitable enough that we could offer the kids to go into business if they chose. I did in my wildest dreams think 3 of them would go into business. And we'd be in their backing that that's what happened and it's beautiful. So we'll probably even need it prettier, but we kept it commercial from the time they were at school. They came home on holidays, whether they worked or not, we paid them enough, that's the money they took back and they lived on with the home. And most of their work. So all the time there's no way